Hey gamers, this is Liz Davidson from Beyond Solitaire, and today I'm going to show you how to solo Renegade, a game designed by our very own Ricky Royal, also known as the man who taught us all how to play Mage Knight. So his full name is Richard Wilkins. He has designed this game Renegade from Victory Point Games, and in it we are going to be computer hackers who have gotten into a hostile network that has taken over humanity, basically, and we are going to mess with that network, free other people, and basically try to restore our society after a tech takeover. So I've already set the server up based on the tutorial setup, the one that's actually recommended in the rulebook. I'm gonna walk you guys through the tutorial, and then I was thinking either in this video or in a separate one, I'll walk you through another boss, maybe just Alpha Moby, the simplest one, just to give everybody a sense of the rules. So in this game, there's a whole set of bosses. They're all these kind of evil supercomputers. We're gonna start with this simulator. As you can see, it's only got one skull and crossbones, so it's the easiest difficulty. It's a tutorial, so it's perfect for learning the rules. And then we can go up several levels, up until, if you wanna really be hardcore about it, Mother. So this game has plenty of bosses to deal with, but we are just going to start with the one that's going to let me do the most basic tutorial. So let's go ahead and have a look at the card for the RS-20 simulator and zoom in. All right, so a lot of setup other than handling the layout of the actual network is on these boss cards. So every single one is going to have its own setup information, and I feel like this is a good way to kind of start introducing you to the game so you can see the kind of elements that are on a boss card, therefore what you're going to have to deal with. So here we have on each Renegade's home server, we're going to place 2 sparks, those are bad, and 1 replicant, that's ours, on partition number 4. And 1 replicant on partition number 6. Also place 1 spark, again that's the bad guy pieces, on every odd numbered partition on Faith, in other words the purple server, that is adjacent to a partition with 2 sparks. So this is going to tell us how to set up our pieces for the opening. Up here, this is going to help us organize the rest of the game. So in every game of Renegade, you're going to have a set of goals that normally changes per game, although in this case we're going to have special simulation goals. But you're going to have some assortment of copper, silver, and gold objectives in every single game of Renegade. And while you don't technically have to meet those objectives, the goal is to survive all the way into the end of the game. And if you don't meet the objectives, there tend to be punishments that make that a lot harder to do. Also down here, we have these little pip symbols. So no pips, 1 and 1. That's telling us how many sparks we need to roll for to put on the board, depending on which stage of the game that we're in. So things start off pretty easy, but we're going to start adding more sparks to the board as the game goes on. So in the book, the rule book version of this walkthrough, they want you to start with Tilda Sweet, who is a blue Renegade. I, however, want to play with Hetty Magnetic because I like her. There are a whole bunch of different Renegades in the box, each of which is going to have a different color affinity, which is something that's going to make more sense as we start to play. So I've chosen Hetty, and I'm going to put her on her access point. The access point is always just number 6 of the server that matches your color. So Hetty is going to go on the number 6 point, and we're also going to set up the simulator. So what it told us is on each Renegade's home server, put 2 sparks and 1 replicant on partition 4. So since Hetty's home server is the yellow one, that's what we're going to do. So we're going to put 2 sparks here on 4. We're also going to put a replicant there, and that's one of these little yellows. Hetty starts with a replicant because she is a yellow character, so basically you get to start with a contaminant of your color, depending on who you are. And in addition to that, we do get to put 1 replicant on partition 6 just as part of setup. So we are starting with a couple of bad guys and some replicants. And then we're also going to place 1 spark on every odd numbered partition on Faith, that is the purple server. Each one has a name. I tend to just call them the red, the yellow, the purple. But this one's called Faith. It's worth knowing. That is adjacent to a partition with 2 sparks. So there are 2 partitions on Faith that are adjacent to a partition with 2 sparks. There's this one, number 5, and this one, number 4. So we're going to put a spark here, and we're going to put a spark here. So in a game of Renegade, this is just the tutorial, so it's all going to go fine. But in a game of Renegade, the thing that is the most interesting about it is that you win the game by surviving all the way to the end. So we have 3 objectives, and we're going to have a certain amount of time in which to complete each of those. Our goal is to survive until the end, hopefully completing the objectives. The computer's goal, the bad guy's goal, is to basically prevent us from doing anything by putting sparks and eventually guardians potentially out on the board. But what's really key is that if I ever need to place a spark or a guardian, which are these big ones, out on the board and the supply is empty, then I lose the game. So it's kind of like running out of disease cubes in Pandemic, you lose. So the next part of setup is gathering our gold cards. In this case, we've just got the ones for the simulator. So there's a copper simulator stage 1 goal. There's a silver simulator stage 2. And there's a simulation stage 3 that is gold. And we're going to work through each of these in this little tutorial. The next thing that we're going to need to play is our own starting deck. So whenever you choose a character, there's going to be just a little starting deck marker on the bottom with your color and also the first letter of your color in case you're colorblind. So I have gotten the 15 yellow cards. There are only 15 cards in your deck. There are always only 15 cards in your deck. So what's going to happen is that for the first 2 rounds of the tutorial, you don't actually have access to what's called the Hack Shack, where you look at card upgrades, just to kind of keep the rules streamlined. But by stage 3, I'm going to be showing you the Hack Shack, and then in our Alpha Moby fight, you'll get to see everything working together. So for each round of the game, you draw a hand of 5 cards. So in this case, we're going to get some movement, some infect ability. We're going to see all of this in a second. Some yellow, that's replicants, more red, and some blue. So our first hand isn't too bad, and we should start thinking about it in terms of our very first goal. So here in simulation stage 1, our goal is basically to get rid of all the sparks that are on our partition and on Faith. In other words, all the sparks that are on the board, we have 3 rounds to get rid of those. And if we don't do it successfully, there are consequences. Also, just a note, as you're going to see soon, 3 of the small sparks, or 3 of our small contaminants, can be combined to turn into a larger square installation, or in bad guy terms, a guardian. So when this is telling you don't get clever, you can't just turn sparks into a guardian in order to get rid of the sparks, what that means is that we can't move 3 sparks onto one partition and create a different kind of enemy, and then just say that there are no sparks, because that's kind of counterintuitive. It's not really the goal that we're going for. All right, so we're ready to begin play. In a normal turn, anything that would fire at the start of turn step would go now, but there isn't anything. Then we would restock the Hack Shack, but the Hack Shack isn't out until round 3, so you won't see that step yet. And then there's the new Spark step, which this time we're going to skip, partially because it's our first turn. You always get to skip the Spark step on the very first turn of the game, but also because we don't have that step in the copper objective phase of this game. So once we get to silver, we're going to start rolling for sparks. We don't have to yet. So it is now time for our actual command actions step. And what that means is that we're going to do command actions using the cards that we have in our hands. So let's have another look through these. There are 3 out of 4 colors in the game represented in this hand. So blue, which is called information, is basically movement. These purples are wild and can be used as any color. Red is destruction or infection, so you use it to spread viruses. And then yellow is replication. So what that means is that we can turn sparks into things that we want. So this is actually a really nice card because I can turn a spark using the yellow command into any color that I want because I have a wild on the card. So these cards have multiple uses. So they can either be used to do something with what you've already got on the board. So in this case, I can use this yellow action to do something with my yellow pieces. Or if you have 3 of a kind, so for example, here I have 3 viruses and I may use this for this purpose, I can use 3 of a kind to put a contaminant of the color that is represented on my cards on the board. So that would mean that I have an extra symbol. You don't get to keep the change. That's an inefficiency that's deliberately built into the game. So you have to play your cards as intelligently as you can and understand that there's going to be some waste and that you have to figure out how to mitigate that. Before we get started, this is important. There's one other key component of setup. So this game is meant to play 1 to 5. It can play up to 5 people. So for every Renegade that you don't have in play, in this case 4, you get to put a blue information token out. So in the tutorial, you just put them on the access points. In a regular game, which I'm going to show you next, you can actually make little roads with them to help you move around the board more quickly because there's a lot of space to cover for just one Renegade. So let's put out some blues. So we get some information here, 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 and here. All right, so that's looking a little bit better. So now let's decide what to actually do. So I think that my first thing to do is I'm going to need to play a move. I'm going to go ahead and play, we're going to play data scan in case I want to move more. So this is a move and a wild. The wild's going to go to waste, but I'm going to play this to move. So we'll just put this in our discard for now. So I can move one per blue symbol on the card. So I could take this as another blue and choose to move. There's a number of things I could do with that wild. But for now, we're just going to move. And when you move, you can take up to 2 of your contaminants with you. So I'm going to take my little replicators with me into this partition, which is what each little section of a server in the network is called. So one restriction is that you can't have more than 3 of the same type of contaminant at the same time on the board. So eventually what I would have to do to fix that is turn this into an installation, which I will show you shortly. But for now, I've moved all of these guys in. The other thing that's interesting is that every hacker has a special power. So Hetty, while not counting against this limit of 3, I still count as a replicant when I take a replicant action, which is pretty cool. I'm going to show you one of the things that makes it really neat in this exact turn. So our goal is to get rid of all of these sparks within 3 rounds or else. So we need to do something about all of these. So the first action I'm going to show you is one that's called modify. So in order to modify something on a partition, what you have to do is you have to have more of these yellow replicant pieces than there are enemy pieces on the partition. So I have 3, technically 4 replicants to 2 sparks. That means that in a numbers battle, I win, therefore I can take the modify action. In order to take the modify action, I need 2 symbols. I need 1 yellow symbol to trigger the modify action, and I need a second symbol to determine what I'm going to turn that spark into. So this is going to allow me to modify. The wild is going to let me choose what to modify something into. I can't choose a yellow. I'm already at my limit on here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the yellow action to modify this spark. And I'm going to say that this wild is a red virus. So now I have a virus out on the board that can be used to fight. So that's that card played. So we've also gotten rid of one of the sparks, which is pretty cool. So I have a couple of options for how I want to finish out this turn. So I can either, basically I can choose to move with my replicants and change another spark because I have this wild action. So I could do that. Or I can make another virus with these 3 virus symbols. So basically I have a choice. One thing that's really cool about Renegade is figuring out how to use your cards the best. So I can either upload another virus, or I can do something a little bit more tricksy and replicate and actually just change another spark over into something else. So I think what I'm going to do, because one of the reasons I like Heady Magnetic so much, is that I enjoy avoiding combat if I can. So when you have your viruses fight, you resolve that on a die roll. If I come in here and just outnumber this, then I can just win. And I like that. I like certainty. So that, because that defines me as a player, that's probably what we're going to do. So check this out. Instead of doing the more obvious put a virus down move, this is what we're actually going to do. We're going to play that decrypt to move 1. We're just going to move 2 of these in here. I'm going to move it all back anyway, probably. Okay, so we're going to move these 2 in here. So now it's 2 to, actually we only need to move 1. Because look, I count as 1, because that's my special ability. So it's 2 yellow to 1 red. So what we're going to do is we are going to play it where this wild is a yellow to start the command to modify that spark. And then the color that we're changing it to is a red. So check that out. We can change this spark into another virus without having to do anything. So instead of creating another virus using the cards the normal way and then risking the life of those viruses in a fight, I've just managed to move and just make another one, which is pretty cool. So this also gives me a chance to show you off another thing that's interesting about the deck building / hand management aspect of Renegade, which is, see how I have 1 card left over? You're allowed to keep 1 card in the first and second rounds over to the next round. So I can keep this, draw 5 more cards, and then have 6 cards in the next stage of play. So I think that that is exactly what I'm going to do. So what I've done is I've shown you how to replicate, but I've also made some viruses, which we are going to do something with shortly. So next step is to replenish our hand. We're going to keep this and we're going to draw 5 more cards. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. I'm not too excited by how little movement I have, but we're just going to have to do something. We're going to have to do our best with what we have. So here are 6 cards. Very exciting. And then you have what's called the end of turn step. What that basically means is that something could happen at the end of the turn that would trigger at this time, but there aren't any things like that, so we won't bother. So we're going to go back to the beginning of a turn phase. So again, in this case, we would have a start of turn step, but there's nothing that's going to happen at the start of the turn. Sometimes there are things that the enemy will do, but not this time. We would restock the hack shack, but we haven't started using that yet. We're just keeping it simple. New spark step. Again, we are in the copper phase. We're not going to start doing that yet, but soon. So now we are back to the command step, and that means we get to start doing stuff with our new cards. Yay! Okay, so, oof, this is a little rough. The reason it's rough is because I can't move as much as I want. So that's going to be an interesting situation. All right, so I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I have this one movement card. I'm going to play it, and I'm going to come here, and I'm going to try my replication trick again, just because it's guaranteed. I'll show you a dice battle soon, but I want to make sure that I succeed in this objective, so I'm not going to just leave that to roll the dice if I don't have to. So I'm going to be a little bit inefficient here. I'm going to play diversion to trigger another modify action using my yellow, because again, we are 2 to 1. And instead of using the other yellow to make another replicant, I'm going to spend this red card to make another virus. So I have viruses kind of hanging out around here. And that spark is what turned into a virus, which I think is pretty cool. So now I have 3 yellows out and 3 reds out. This one spark is remaining. I can't move to do anything about that spark right now, which stinks. What I can do is I can go ahead and create a little uplink. So this is the other color in the game. So we've talked about yellow lets you turn sparks into something else. Red is a virus that lets you attack. Blue is information, and it also signifies movement. So this green is actually kind of neat because it allows you to manipulate what's happening at a distance. So what that's going to mean is, let's say that I go ahead and spend these 3 symbols, right, to put down a little green uplink. What that means is that if I build another uplink anywhere else, and I'm on that space, I can basically communicate between that uplink and this one to influence things on this partition. So I can shift contaminants and sparks and stuff around from a distance by using uplinks that are connected to each other. If I get 3 in one space and turn them into a square installation, which I'll show you, when I'm on that space, then I can influence any other section in the server that I'm on as if I were teleporting there, which is also really, really cool. So green is fantastic for letting you influence things that you're not necessarily very close to, or handle stuff on parts of the board that you don't have enough movement to get to. So once again, I think I'm going to hold on to this card, and we're going to draw our last 5 cards. We have one more round to get rid of this last spark, or else. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It'd be good to have some movement. Probably gonna have to use this wild instead. And then we have this one. Now it's end of turn step. We don't have any end of turn things to do. So we're gonna come right back around to start of turn. No events for the start of turn. We don't restock the hack shack because there's not one yet, but you will see it this game. There's no new spark step yet, but after this round there will be. So we'll start doing that. And then now we are back to command actions. So basically the tutorial starts you off pretty easy so that you can focus on smaller parts of the game as you grow. So hopefully this is helping you see how the basic actions work. So now what we're going to do is we must get rid of that spark. So here is my plan. I think what we should do is we should use this wild as a blue. We don't have any other blue in the hand. We need to move. So we're going to come over here. And which am I going to bring with me? I could bring my replicant, or I can bring my virus. I think because I've been replicating a lot and I want you to see something different, we're just going to risk it. We're going to bring the virus with us. So now we're in here with these 2 virus contaminants and 1 spark, and I'm going to trigger a fight, show you how to do it. So there's a couple ways I could choose to do this fight. I have basically 4 symbols here that are infect symbols. So I can either use 3 of them to put another virus here, or I can use all 4 of them to add to a die roll against this spark, which is what I'm going to do. It would be nice to have another contaminant, but like, we're not going to do that right now. I want to win this fight. So basically what's going to happen is we're going to roll dice. I'm the red one because we are red. The bad guys are black because the sparks and the guardians are black. And what's going to happen is we're going to roll my attack number versus their defense number. So the way that this is going to happen is I have 2 viruses here. And let's say that I'm going to go ahead and just do overkill. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4 virus symbols. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 plus a die roll to their 1 plus a die roll. So this is going to be an absolute overkill. So even though they got 4 to our 2, I had 6, 7, 8, and they have 4, 5. So basically what happens is I win, and if there were more than 1 spark here, I would take them all out. All the sparks are gone because we won the virus fight, and these cards are spent. Now I have these other cards. They're all these kind of yellow. There's not a lot I can do with them. Actually, there is. Here's what we're going to do. So I'm going to spend these 3 because I left this yellow over here, if you recall. So I'm going to spend these 3 to make another one. So now there's 3 yellow on this partition. That's the max. And then I'm going to spend this 1 command to turn these 3 yellows into an installation, a yellow installation. So the thing that's cool about that is that now that this is here, every time I'm on here and I want to make more yellow, instead of having to pay 3 symbols for 1 yellow, if I'm here, it's just 1 to 1. So I can spend 3 yellow symbols, get 3 yellows, and move them somewhere if that's what I want to do. So this basically helps me put more contaminants on the board more easily. So you can only have 1 installation of each color on a partition, but I could like make more viruses over here and make a virus installation in the same spot if that was what I wanted to do. So now that whole phase is over. I have worked through my entire deck. All of my cards are in the discard. We've had 3 rounds. So that means that the whole copper objective round time limit is over. So we're moving into a new phase of the game. That's called the countermeasures phase. So the first thing that you're going to do is called the SMC's Revenge, which is where we've been messing around with this supercomputer and it's mad. So it's going to turn around and mess with us. If we had not removed all of the sparks, then those sparks would automatically fight with any viruses that shared a partition with them. So if I just ignored that spark, it would auto fight with my viruses now, except that I couldn't spend cards to increase my odds. It would have just been these 2 viruses versus the 1 spark, and we would have just rolled the dice and seen who won that day. So there's a forced battle. So sometimes you can kind of leave viruses out and just kind of hope for the best if they're pretty disposable. If you want to make sure you win, it's not best to leave it until this step. So there are no sparks out, so there won't be any virus fights. If there were sparks or guardians on spaces that don't have a virus, but they have other installations of mine, those would all just also be deleted. Not the installations, but the uploads. So if there's a spark in here, so if we hit the end of the round and there was a spark in here, for example, it would like destroy the stuff that I had put in there because there's no virus to protect it. A spark can't destroy an installation, but if I have a guardian, then it can. So basically, you have to keep an eye on your stuff, because if you leave it with hostile pieces, then at the end of each round, they're going to destroy the stuff that you've been working on, which would be really unfortunate. So there aren't any sparks out on the board, so none of that's going to happen. And there are no, special instructions on the supercomputer, so we're going to keep going. So what that means is that our next step is success or failure. So only after this point do we see if we have succeeded in our objective. So in this case, our objective was to make sure that each Renegade's home server and Faith have no sparks. That is true. There are no sparks. We got rid of them all. Yes. So now we're going to flip this card. So if we'd failed, something would have happened, but instead we get to read the success text. So success means add 1 virus to Faith partitions 1, 2, and 3. So 1, 2, and 3, get some viruses. How thrilling. Everyone likes a virus. And then we also get to add 1 uplink to each partition on Faith. So we get to take a bunch of greens and put those out. How exciting. One thing that can be rough about this, however, is that our supply is limited by the number of tokens we have, and green and blue share. So we almost have too many greens out. And if I wanted to make more blue, I would have a limited stock. So these things are a mixed blessing. Also, basically the difference between success and fail in this case would have been that we would have had to add some sparks as well as what we're already adding if we'd failed. But we didn't. We succeeded. Yay! Okay, so the other thing that you get to do is normally when you complete an objective, you get to take a scoring token. I mean, this is just the simulation tutorial, so it's nothing too fancy, but we'll just give ourselves points because it's fun. So look at that. We're going to give ourselves this copper VP, 25 points for doing our little tutorial mission. Gotta give yourself a gold star, you know? All right, so now that means that we are on simulation stage 2. So we're gonna have a new goal and things are going to change. So let's have a look at it really quick before we do anything else. So now what it's telling us to do is we need to have at least one of every installation type. So we already have one over here, the yellow one. So i.e. a red installation, a yellow, a blue, and a green on X servers where X is the number of renegades. So basically, I'm the only renegade. I already have one installation on this server. So I want to put one of each other type on here before the end of next round in order to complete this objective. Interestingly, we have reset protocol. All avatars teleport to their respective access points. Then we add one data port to each renegade's access point. So we actually are going to get a free data port now, which is great because blues are the hardest one to make. So, because you have to use all those points for movement or else. So what's going to happen is we're now going to add data port. So we're going to transport back over here, we're teleporting, and then we get to add one data port back. So our silver goal is revealed and we've reset for a new set of rounds. We're also going to switch to the silver stage here in the simulator, which means we're going to start rolling for sparks and I'll get to show you how that works. All right, so now we're going to reshuffle our deck. And it'll be more exciting next time because we will actually get some new cards and I'll show you how that works. You get to use them right away, so it's not like you have to wait for them to come back around. And we're going to deal ourselves a fresh hand of 5 cards. Put it down here. 2, 3, 4, 5. We got a bunch of killer viruses and some movement. All right, we're going to see what we can do with that next turn. The Hack Shack would also reset at this time if we were using it, but we're not right now. So there's nothing that happens at the start of turn. There's no Hack Shack step, but this time we're going to roll for a new spark. And what that means is that we're going to roll these 2 dice. One has numbers, so it'll be what partition it is. The other has colors, so it'll be what server it is. All right, so we are going to put a spark, that was yellow, on yellow 3. So a spark is going to come and hang out with us. So one of the things that's interesting about when there's a spark is that you can't build anything new by paying 3 symbols on a thing with a spark. So I can take that modify action that I was showing you last turn, but I can't come in here, build a virus, and then attack. You have to get rid of the sparks first. So that's one of the challenges of the game. All right, so this spark is important, but our goal is not to actually get the spark, it is to build installations, and I don't feel sufficiently threatened by this spark yet to worry too much, so I'm probably not going to spend my movement trying to go get at it. The thing that's interesting about this game is that it's a lot of pursuing your own goals versus crisis management. So once sparks get out of hand, they can get really dangerous. So if there's 3 of these here, it'll turn into a guardian, and then if I would put another spark there, I get what's called a spark explosion, where I have to explode some sparks flipped over that become flares out around it. So basically, things get a lot worse if you let them pile up and they start to react from each other and spread. But right now we just have 1 spark here and I'm not worried about it. So for now, I think my goal is to make sure that I get some installations. So I need a red one and I need a green one. And I sort of feel like with all these viruses here and then these green uplinks here, pretty much this is a matter of moving around and getting the stuff that I need. So I'm going to go collect them, basically. So I have movement, wild movement. So let me think. I also have a wild here to use as more movement. So I have to think about how I want to spend all these cards. Okay, here's what I think I'm going to do. First, I'm going to move here. So just 1 move. Then I'm going to use these reds to take an installation action. Well, an upload action, sorry. So I'm going to add another red. Then I'm going to use this red on here. Sadly, I will lose the wild to create a red installation. So again, just like with the yellow, what that means is that next time I want to make red stuff, I only have to pay a single red command on here instead of 3 if this is the space that I'm on. And then I have this. So I have to decide if I want to spend it now. And I think that I do, because here's what I think I want to do with it. I'm going to treat this wild as another blue. So I'm going to move, and then I'm going to move here, and I'm going to take these with me. So now I have 3 greens together. I just need one more move to get them over here so I can install them on my server. Then I'll have one of each kind of installation on one server. So this time I used all of my cards and didn't keep one over to the next round. All right, so now we're going to start a new turn, and we are going to start by replenishing our hand. So we'll draw 5 more cards. 2, 3, 4, and 5. And then what we're going to do is we are going to go back to the beginning of the turn. So there's nothing that happens at the start of turn step. We don't restock the Hack Shack yet, but we're going to roll for another spark. Let's see what we get. Ooh, geez, another yellow 3. That is unlucky, but we're going to do it. So we'll put it right there. All right, so hopefully nothing happens with that, because if we get one more on this spot, we're in trouble. No more yellow 3s dice. Come on, give me a break. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to go first take care of this installation, because it's the most important thing that we can do. So I'm going to go ahead and spend this one, the wild on it, as a blue, so that we can move here. We're going to move our little greens. And then I'm going to spend, I want to keep this wild just in case I can think of something smart to do with it. So we're going to spend these greens as a command action to make a green installation. So now we have one installation of each type on this server, which is awesome because it's going to really, really help us. All right, so now I have 3 more cards, and I want to make sure that this spark situation kind of stays under control. I don't want another spark there. That would be really bad. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pay these 2 yellows, but since I'm on a space with an installation, I can just use those to make 2 replicants right now, which is awesome. Then I'm going to use the wild on this green card to move and take my replicants with me. Since I count as a replicant, I want to take a modify action here, I think. Oh shoot, I can't. Crap. Okay, so I can't take a modify action yet. I just have this red. So I'm going to hold on to this for next turn and hope that I can finish off the things that I need to finish in the next round. So we're going to refresh our hand. So we're keeping this one. And then we draw 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 cards. So looks like I'm going to get to do what I need to do. And then we get to go all the way back to the beginning of the turn. So nothing happens at the start of phase. Nothing's happening with the Hack Shack yet. Now we get to roll for another spark. Please don't roll for yellow 3. Oh, that would be so unfortunate. Okay, so this time we got purple 1. So that means that we are going to put a spark over here. All right, so there it is. So there are 3 sparks out on the board, but I've been fulfilling my objective, so I think we're good. So now what's going to happen is I get to play my last round, and then we'll have the SMC revenge step, and you'll get to see some stuff. All right, so our silver objective was to get one of each installation type on the same server, which we've already done. So now I have to just kind of figure out what to do with my last round. I think my best option is to manage what's going on over here. So let's think about that. I definitely want to take some modifying actions. So let's go ahead and play Interrupt. So we're going to use the interrupt because it's 3 to 2, because it's my special action to count as 1. So we're going to change one of these sparks. Let's change it into a virus. So I can put a red down. So I spent 1 yellow to do the action, spent 1 red to make the virus. And then we can do it again because I have another interrupt. So we'll play it again to get rid of the other spark. And let's turn that one into a green. Let's say it's a bypass. No, I don't want to do that. I'll show you why. Let's just go ahead and make it, let's just make it another yellow in case we want to make another installation. Okay, so we did yellow, yellow, yellow. That was kind of wasteful, but that's fine. So what we're going to do now is let's go ahead and use this blue to move. So we've done what we're going to do. Let's move. Let's take a couple of these with us just for fun. Seems like a good idea. And then we can move up to 2. So let's move 1, 2. And then just because we have this, I'm going to show you how to take a bypass action. So what we're going to do is let's go ahead and put the bypass down. And what that means is that since we are in a space with an uplink, we can treat this other space with an uplink as though we're kind of in it, and we can take a shift action with that green. So I want to shift this uplink away. Let's put it here. From this virus. Because basically this virus and this spark are going to have a fight in the next step, and I don't really know who's going to win. It comes down to a die roll. So I can lose my virus, or I can lose my virus and my uplink, and it just seems smart to protect, that wasn't supposed to be there, to protect my stuff to the greatest extent possible. So now that the round is done, we're going to go to the SMC's revenge step. Oh no, vengeance. Okay, so what's going to happen? So basically what we're going to have now is a little fight. So we're going to have a virus fight between the virus and the spark, because they each have a modifier of 1, because there's just 1 of each. I can't play any cards. It's just a matter of die roll. So let's see who rolls higher. Okay, so this time the bad guys got us. So the black die has a higher value to our 4. The spark lives, the virus dies. And what's going to happen now is if I had left my little green uplink here, it would have died. It would have gotten deleted into the next step. So it's sometimes good, if you're not really sure if your virus is going to win, to kind of get other stuff out of the way so you don't lose everything. Losing 1 virus is one thing, but losing 2 things, come on. So there's some strategic implications to where you leave stuff for the countermeasure step. So now that that's all taken care of, we get to do our success or failure step. So did we succeed in our silver objective, which was to get at least 1 of every installation type on 1 server, where 1 in this case is the number of renegades. So yes, we have succeeded. So now we're going to flip this card. Success! So we have all avatars teleport to their respective access points. So we just teleported, okay? And then we add 1 spark to any partition of each renegade's home server. Okay, so let's go ahead and put a spark. Let's put it here. Let's put it here. So that way, it's here with a modifier and with a replicant and a virus. Okay, so we've done that, and then what we're going to do is we're going to move these sparks that are on the board. So they move different directions depending on whether you succeed or fail, which is sort of interesting. But in this case, the sparks are going to move down on purple. So down from 1 just loops back around to 6. So that spark came over here to hang out. We don't have anything on green, so nothing's going to move, although up meant that it would go from 1 to 2, 2 to 3, etc. Red, same thing. There's nothing on red, but if it had been 3, it would go 4. If it were 6, it would go to 1. Just goes up. And we're going to go down again on purple. So down from 6 is 5. So the spark is coming near us. So that was the success step in this case. It could have been failure, but we resolved our objective. So this goes to the side. We get 25 silver VP brownie points. And then we're going to look at our next objective. So now we are on gold. How exciting. So this one says, have at least 1 guardian or 3 sparks per renegade, so just 3, on this card. Body count. When a countermeasure, either a spark or a guardian, is deleted, place it on this card. So what that means is that we need to delete things. What that basically means is remove them for any reason. So we can do that using a modify action, or we can do it using a virus fight sort of action, an infect action. But every time we kill a spark from now on, we're going to put it over here and try to get to 3 by the end of the round. So that's a pleasant goal. I'm all about it. So we're going to take our deck back. We'll reshuffle it. And we're going to draw a new hand. But the other thing that we're going to do, since we're now in the gold round, is we are going to set up the hashtag. So you guys finally get to see some of the more exciting cards in the game. So we've been working with our starter cards, which I think is perfectly good for a tutorial round. But we're about to be able to look in the hack shack. And what that means is that we get upgraded versions of our cards. So, you can have ones that have the same amount of symbols, but they have execute actions, like special actions you can take. If you really want to spin big and get something with 3 wilds on it, dang. You know, digital tattoo gives you an also action, so you can do something in addition to using it for its symbol. And these are the costs up here on the top right. And I'm going to show you how to go shopping this round, which is really fun. So the Hack Shack always has 4 cards in. So we're going to have 1. So in this case, we got the replicant jar, which I really like when I can afford it. So it's 3 symbols, it costs 3, and it also gives you an execute that lets you change from red to yellow or yellow to red, and from blue to green, back and forth. So because our contaminants are dual-sided, if you need to change, here, let me move my hand. Here, if you need to change one into something else, that card will let you do it, which is pretty cool. We've also pulled, Project Consciousness, thrilling. So that's another 3 symbol card, and it's cheap, and you can execute it, which is pretty cool. Love it. I really like that card. Duality, it's a cheaper yellow, but it also has or execute, and it's another contaminant flipper. And then, let's see, self-modifying inhibitor. I swear I shuffled these. Why are the yellows together? Okay, so, or you can execute to delete 1 spark on your partition. Okay, so I like this card a lot as well. So you can switch out for a yellow and a wild, and you can get an extra action, and this one's really good because it lets you delete a spark and add a replicant without having to spend so many symbols, which is pretty sweet. I dig it a lot. So we'll put that up here. So we have a little market. I'll let you know what we're buying in a moment. But let's go ahead and draw our opening hand for this round. Actually, yeah, we'll go ahead and draw our hand. All right, so we pretty much can't buy anything yet, which is a shame, but it's a pretty nice hand all the same. And I'll show you what to do with it once we get rolling. So start a turn, nothing happens. We restocked the Hack Shack because we stocked it to begin with, so that's just there. Let's move everything down a bit. Now we're going to roll for a spark. So hopefully it's not too far away because we need to get 3 of these babies and we need to get them going. So let's roll something good. Come on, dice. Oh, okay, that's actually great. So we rolled purple 4. So we have another spark out here for us to come and kill. 1, 2, 3. Got goals. And that was the spark step. Now we're in command actions, which means we get to play our cards. Yay! Okay, so this red, this red, this red, and this blue aren't really going to buy us anything on the market. Memory Steel, however, is going to. So we're going to pay the 1 green on this card to meet the 1 green price on Project Consciousness, which is worth a bunch more because it's a green and 2 purples as opposed to just a green and purple, plus an execute, so we can teleport an installation to our partition, which is pretty exciting. So if you want to move an installation around to make your life easier, you can. So that means that this is going to leave my deck entirely. Project Consciousness is going to go right into my hand. So the deck building aspect of this game is very immediate. You get to play all your new stuff right away. You don't have to wait. And so I find that very exciting, personally. All right, so we have our cards. What do we want to do? We definitely want to move. All right, here's what we're going to do. So let's go ahead and use this blue. It's going to waste something, but we're going to come over here using our blue. Then I'm going to say that since we replicants outnumber this 1 spark, so it's 2 to 1, we're going to say that this is a yellow turning into a red. So this thing gets deleted, goes on our card, and we are going to turn it into a virus. Oop, that was yellow. We want a virus. So this card got spent. So now what? Oof. We don't have a lot of move, which is what makes this so difficult. So I think what we're going to do is let's go ahead and move now. So let's say that this wild is a move. It's kind of wasteful, but we're just going to do it. Ooh, actually, let's do it like this. Yes. So we're going to move twice. We're going to say this is move, 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 move. We're just going to go ahead and take these viruses with us for a big fight in a second. But now we outnumber this, so we can also take an action if something goes wrong next time. So this goes away. But now we're hanging out in here with 2 viruses to 1, and we have these cards. So I think I'd like to save one of these in case I need to attack next time. So let's be smart. Let's save this for the next round. But I have 1, 2, 3, 4 to their 1 right now, and we're going to go ahead and use this card to initiate a fight. So let's roll. Okay, so we got 5 to 5. But since my modifier is much higher, so this is basically 6 versus 9, we're gonna win. And that means that this spark gets deleted. Yes, so 2 out of 3, and then this goes in our discard. So that was the end of that round. We're gonna hold on to this card. So we're gonna go ahead and draw back up, so we get to draw 5 cards. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. More movement, that's good. 6 for infiltrate. And then we're gonna go back to start of turn. So the end of turn step doesn't trigger anything. The start of turn step doesn't trigger anything. We do restock the Hack Shack this time. So we had these cards, we've got 3 cards. So we're gonna draw a 4th one to restock. So this time we got Black Market. So if you have a wild to spend, you can get 2 wild, which is pretty cool. And then it lets you kind of sift through what's in the Hack Shack and change it out. So if you don't like what's on the market, you can change it. All right, now that we've restocked the Hack Shack, we do have to roll for new sparks. So let's go ahead and see where we're gonna put it. All right, so back on yellow 3. Man, these sparks really like hanging out with us this time. That's not actually a bad thing. So spark. Now it's time for our turn and we get to go power shopping. Yes. Okay, so I'm gonna show you how to maximize this, this market. So we have a lot of yellow cards up here. We have a lot of yellow. So the first thing I wanna do is I wanna spend this diversion card. It's got 2 yellow symbols on it. So I wanna buy it for the 2 yellow symbols on here. This diversion is going to leave my deck entirely, it goes away. Self-modifying inhibitor goes into my hand. So now I have, instead of just 2 yellows, a yellow and a wild, and the action that's going to win me this game, because I can execute it to delete 1 spark in my partition, and then I can add 1 replicant if I desire, which is great. Then, let's say that I want to buy also this replicant jar. I don't have anything that's going to just let 1 card that's going to let me spend 3 symbols, but I can spend these 2 yellows. So how that works is that one of them is going to leave my deck, so we're going to take this cheaper interrupt and toss it. This one just goes into my discard pile. And then after all that purchasing, the replicant jar just goes right into my hand. So I had 6 cards coming into the round, now I'm at 5. That's actually perfect. All right, so now let's play these sweet, sweet new cards. We already have 2 dead sparks on our goal. We need 1 more. There are 2 more on the board. Let's just kind of see what we can do. So I think the first thing we're gonna go ahead and do is let's go ahead and decrypt, which is a move action. So we'll play it to move here, and let's just take a replicant because it's fun. Awesome. Okay, so what we're gonna do this time is let's go ahead and play self-modifying inhibitor. Let's play it for the execute action. So basically I can either play it for the symbols on the card or for the execute. So the execute says delete 1 spark on my partition, and then I can add 1 replicant there if I desire. So we're gonna delete it. That puts it over here, yes. And then we can add 1 more replicant, and we do desire. Let's do it. So that goes in discard. This was discarded. So now we have 3 cards left. Let's go ahead. There's not a whole lot we can do with the rest of this hand in terms of actually getting that spark. It's not a big deal either way, frankly. It's not, there aren't gonna be enough spark rerolls to do anything. What would be fun? Oh, I know what I wanna do. Let's decide that instead of all these replicants, I wanna go fight over here because I have this virus and I can hang on to it for the next hand. So let's use this one for its execute, just to show you an execute action. So I can flip any number of contaminants on my server over, this whole server, but I want to just change these. So now I'm traveling with a full load of viruses. So I played the replicant jar to flip those contaminants and change them into something else. I can't really do anything with bypass because I'm not with a green, so this is just gonna kind of go to waste. But this one I'm holding on to for the next round. So we've done all of our commands. There's nothing in the end of turn step, so we're gonna flip back around. There's nothing at the start of turn that's gonna trigger, so we restock the Hack Shack. Good Lord, why is everything yellow? All right, purple. Console Cowboy. Ooh, I can't afford that, but it's cool. And then we're gonna draw our remaining 5 cards. So we have 6. Nice. All right, so here's what we're gonna do with all these lovely cards. Oh yeah, also we can't do anything with them yet because we need to roll for a new spark. So roll for spark. All right, so this one's gonna come onto green 5. Good thing that didn't happen earlier. It would take forever to go get it. All right, so now what we're gonna do, let's go ahead and see if we wanna shop first, maybe? So we have these, I wanna keep Trickery Master, I like that one. I don't have enough of anything else. But, for example, this interrupt, This single yellow can pay for duality, which is another yellow, but it gives you an ability as well, so you may as well trade out. So interrupt leaves my deck, duality enters my hand, and off we go. So let's go ahead and play this one move. We're gonna come here. Let's take our viruses with us. There's 3 of them, nice. Let's go ahead and play this card for 2 more viruses to get our modifier up to 5 versus their 1. And let's roll some dice. Just so you know, it's not meet or beat, it's beat, so we do have to beat them. So we totally killed them. That was 6 to 3. So this spark will also go away and go into the spark graveyard. And our viruses live to fight another day. Just to play our cards out to the end of this round, let's go ahead and play this to make a virus installation because it's fun. And then what else we got? Then I could do something like, if I wanted to, I can make a green. It's for 1, 2, and then 3. Not that one. And then if I wanted to, let's say I'm trying to make myself a little highway, I can just flip it over to a blue with the execute action on here. So I just did stuff with my cards to fill out the round because we've been pretty efficient. So that is the whole end of the round. We're gonna go into SMC Revenge. So this spark is over here. It doesn't have anything to fight with. If there were a virus here, it would fight with it. If these were in the same partition, then the spark having nothing to fight would delete it, but they're not, so nothing happens. And then we go to the success or failure step. So we have 4 little spark corpses on here. And it says that we need at least 3 per renegade. There's only 1 of us. So we absolutely succeeded. So success says, congratulations, prospect. You've beaten the simulation. Be sure to check your score and now graduate as a renegade. You are ready to face the SMC Alpha Moby. So basically this is where you finish the tutorial and you prove yourself ready to go on to the next boss. So we get another 25 points. So that's 75 points for completing objectives. And then there are other ways to earn them at the end of the game. So basically the way this works is that you get 25 per objective that you succeed at. And then there's a few other little things that'll help you score. So you get 1 VP for a complete set of 5 spark tokens in the stock. So there are 25 sparks in the game. There's 1 here on the board. So that means that I have 4 complete sets for 4 points. So that's another 4. So that went from 75 to 79. 1 VP per installation token on the network. So 79, 80, 81, 82, 83, 84. And then you get 5 VPs per guardian token in the stock. There are no guardians out. There are 5 in the stock. So that's another 25 points. So yeah, we broke 100, which is the main thing for deciding how you did. So 100 plus VPs basically means you killed it. And then 70 to 99 is great. 0 to 69 is like, you won, but you weren't that impressive when you did. But of course, this is just a tutorial, so things get a lot more exciting in future rounds against future, way more difficult bosses. So this was just sort of like a funsies thing to show you the rules. I hope you enjoyed it. If you like my work, please do like and subscribe to my channel, and consider buying me a coffee in the link below. Thank you so much for watching, and happy gaming.